was mid-2004, just a few days after my 12th birthday, and my parents decided to take me to my grandparents' house, which was in the backwoods of Louisiana. It was located just off of a small dirt road about 70 or so yards from the nearest swamp. It always gave me the chills, and as much as I told my parents I didn't like going there, they would always end up dragging me out to see them. My grandpa always used to tell me these creepy stories about an old cotton plantation that was rumoured to be in the area, and that there was so much evil that took place there that one day the slaves managed to escape and ran off into the nearby swamps. He said that around 2 weeks later, the slaves returned to get revenge on the owner of the plantation. They managed to break into the master's house during the night and gut him in front of his wife. They then dragged his body out to the edge of the swamp and waited for the alligators to devour him before running off into the night. My grandpa always used to tell me to never, ever play or explore any further than at the edge of their property, because the slave owner's ghost is said to haunt the swamps. Now, I never used to believe him or his stories, but I couldn't help but feel creeped out, or a feeling of being watched whilst playing in their yard. My parents then broke the news to me that I would be staying with my grandparents for the night, as they were going to visit some good friends and would be out till late. I wasn't happy about this, however, my parents would never go out, and I was happy to see them decide to socialise, so I understood. It got to around 7 PM and the light was starting to fade. My grandma shouted to me, "Come inside before it gets pitch black out." I shouted back, "10 more minutes, Grandma, and I'll be in." She reluctantly agreed to let me stay out for 10 more minutes. Just as I finished exploring my grandparents' old barn, I happened to see a black, shadowy figure out of the corner of my eye pass near the barn door. At first, I thought it was just my grandpa coming to close the barn door and tell me to come in. But when I called out, "Grandpa," no one answered. Now all that was in my head was the stories that my grandpa used to tell me of the old slave owner. It took me a few minutes to then compose myself and walk forward to exit the barn and get inside before it turns pitch black. Just before I got to the door, I heard a loud bang come from just behind me. I froze in fear, not being able to see what it was, as the barn wasn't very well lit, and where the sound came from was total darkness. I slowly backed out of the barn, and just as soon as I was out the door, all I heard was what I could only describe as a deep, horrifying laugh. I sprinted back to the house, slammed the door, and ran to my grandma. When she asked why I was out of breath, I couldn't bring myself to tell her what had just happened. I don't know how I managed to get to sleep that night. Just as morning came, my parents pulled into my grandparents' driveway, and no sooner did they arrive, I jumped into the car and head back to our house and the comfort of the built-up area we lived in. Now, I can't say I believe in the paranormal or ghosts, but whatever I heard in that barn that day stayed with me. So my dad decided to get an airboat last month so that we could go fishing in the bayou about 2 miles from our house. Me and my brother have always grown up around the bayous, so we know the dangers of getting too close to the water and getting lost in the maze of the different channels. On this particular day, we decided we were going to go take our dad's boat out during the night to catch some bullfrogs. Our dad gave us permission to take the boat out, as he taught me and my brother how to drive and to be safe with them. It was around 8:15 PM. Me and my brother hooked the boat trailer to our truck and set off to the nearest bayou. We arrived there after about 10 minutes of driving, due to the dirt track never having any traffic during that time of the night. Now this is where the story gets a little creepy, and thinking back, we should have just gone home. As we were launching the boat into the water, I happened to look to the other side of the narrow channel and saw two dark silhouettes, about 4 foot from the bank. I did notice one of them had on what looked like an old straw hat, and the other one, I remember, was half crouched behind a massive Spanish moss tree. As I couldn't actually see what they were doing, or what they were looking at, I carried on getting the boat sorted and loaded with what we needed to go catch some frogs. Fast forward around 2 hours, we had only caught a couple of frogs and decided we would start turning back and head back to our truck. We decided to turn our high-powered flashlights off to save some of the batteries and just use the moonlight to see our way back, as the moonlight shined bright that night. As we started slowly heading back, we happened to notice the distant call of bullfrogs, just to the left of where we were going. We started coasting the boat slowly to the sound until it got louder. Right behind a small patch of bushes, we managed to use our frog gigs to spear 3 bullfrogs. With all the excitement of catching the frogs, we didn't notice a person was on our boat. We had left it parked around 20 feet behind us. As soon as my brother noticed the person, he screamed out, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing?" I started sprinting back to the boat. When the guy noticed we were running back to the boat, he ran off into the darkness. Scared by what had just happened, we decided to go straight back to the truck. As we powered up the fan, we heard a loud crunch and what smelled like burning electrics. We could only assume that this had something to do with the guy we just saw on the boat. By this point we were absolutely terrified. Luckily we brought our guns with us, a 9mm handgun and a .22 rifle, which we used for alligators. My brother had his .22 in his hand, whilst I kept trying to get the fan going. My brother then quietly said to me, "Hey, I see 2 guys hiding behind a tree." My heart dropped. In a panic, my brother fired a warning shot and shouted, "If you come any closer, I'm gonna kill you." The fan on the boat then somehow started back up, and we quickly got out of there. When we got back home, we both ran to our dad and told him what had happened. He told us we were never allowed back in the swamps alone after that. We didn't want to go back out there anyway, so this was fine. We didn't know if they were trying to rob us and take the boat or kill us, but it's safe to say we won't be going out there again in a hurry. Me and my friends, who for this I'll call Junior, Elijah, Isaac, and their girlfriends, Peyton, Leah, and Chloe, decided we all wanted to go camping. Now, as I was the only one who didn't have a girlfriend at the time, I was at first a bit reluctant to go, but my friends managed to convince me. After loading up Elijah and Junior's trucks full of our camping supplies, food, water, etc., we headed up to the forest, which was about 30 miles from our hometown. We arrived at around 4 PM in the afternoon, and as this was early summer, we knew we still had a few hours of light left, so instead of setting up the tents, we decided to start drinking and talking about what we were going to do with our futures. Hours passed as we continued drinking. Isaac pulled out a small bag of weed. Now, I had never smoked weed, but as I was surrounded by my friends and I didn't want to seem like a big pussy, I decided I'd have some. I think I had too much to drink and smoke, as I then started to feel very dizzy and nauseous. Whilst I sat down to try and shake the dizziness feeling, my friends around me started setting up the tents and making a fire, so that way we could cook the food we had brought. It was about 9 PM when I started to feel a little bit better, so I joined my friends around the campfire. Elijah thought it would be a good idea to start telling scary stories to freak us all out. I started to get a feeling I was being watched, but I put it down to me being intoxicated and carried on listening to Elijah tell his stories. But for some reason, I could not shake the feeling of being watched, so I turned around and shined my high-powered flashlight into the darkness of the forest. Peyton, who was sitting next to me, asked what I was doing. I replied, "I have this really strong feeling that we are being watched." She then said to me, "I also have the same feeling." Junior and Elijah burst out laughing, calling us scared little babies, and to stop being so paranoid, it was just the weed. Just as he finished insulting us, we heard a branch snap just behind us. I got up from my camping chair and started searching the forest with my flashlight, but I couldn't see anything. We all decided now was a good time to go into our tents. I'd be the only one sleeping alone that night, and after all that happened, I was absolutely terrified. I zipped up my tent, got into my sleeping bag, turned off the light, and tried to forget everything that happened. It was so silent, all I could hear was the light, wind, and insects. And a faint clicking noise in the distance, which I put down to tree branches moving in the slight breeze. But the clicking got louder. I sprang up from my sleeping bag and listened closely. I couldn't make out what that sound was. It sounded like something shuffling just outside of my tent. I got my phone out from my backpack to send everyone a message asking if they could also hear what I was hearing. I was then greeted with a no signal sign. This couldn't be happening. My tent zip started slowly opening. I froze in fear, not knowing what to do. Junior's head then popped through my tent door and whispered to me, "Hey, come here, we need to go now." I was confused, but got out of the tent and followed Junior into the trees. I noticed we were going back to the trucks. I asked Junior why we were heading back to the vehicles and where everyone else was. What he said next made my heart race. He said, "I went out of my tent to take a piss in the night and saw a large figure standing just behind Isaac and Leia's tent, holding a large machete." He also said the others were waiting for us next to the trucks. We got into the vehicles and drove off as fast as we could. Luckily, Elijah, Peyton, Leah and Isaac went out for a walk in the woods and also saw the man before they went back to the tents. Junior had gone back to his tent, woke up his girlfriend Chloe and told her to head to the cars and came and got me. Who knows what would happen if no one had saw the person with the machete. And thank God, Junior was there for me. Thank you to everybody that watched this video. I understand the presentation isn't the greatest. This is the first video like this I've ever done. It will get better over time. I have so many stories I want to share with you. If you have any tips to help me get better at this, or any videos that you would like to see, please